Hello and welcome to today's 10-minute episode of The Listening Lounge. Now, right now, there is so much noise, it can be hard to be heard. So when you want to relax, take this opportunity to learn something new, because they say the quieter we are, the more we hear, and that listening is the secret to discovering the greatest of stories. My name is Nick Day. I'm CEO of 𝐥𝐢𝐤 Recruitment Group with specialist payroll and HR recruiters. And today on The Listening Lounge, I'm joined by Stephen Campbell, who is a stand-up comedian and social entrepreneur and owner of U Streat Comedy. Now, he's really focused on developing new ways to make a social impact through comedy. Yes, that's right. Stephen's mission is to provide an alternative way of thinking through humour, an alternative business model through social enterprise, and an alternative way to fundraise through art. So welcome, Stephen Campbell, to the show. Here is my first question. Stephen, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me, Nick. I appreciate you.
Now, my absolute pleasure. Let's start straight off the bat then. It's a question that I know people listening to this are going to think, how on earth is this connected? Your business brings comedy and HR together. They're two things traditionally we wouldn't necessarily think of connecting. So tell me about that connection. Why have you mixed comedy with HR?
Sure. Honestly, in the last 2 years, there has been more of an appetite for it than there probably was before that. We were doing a lot of fundraising work before. We were doing a lot of fundraising for big nonprofits, American Cancer Society, obviously here in the States. But the appetite for virtual comedy shows really picked up once the pandemic happened for obvious reasons. The combination, it all just slowly started meshing in one after another, right? So I've been doing comedy for 8 years. I've been a fundraiser for 10 years. And we started getting more and more corporate gigs, more and more groups with the Harvard alumni and Ivy League schools and stuff like that, which slowly gravitated into doing shows for different corporate groups. And honestly, on both fronts, both the virtual shows and the even talking to people in HR about comedy, there was a little bit of a pushback, and I thought that there wouldn't be as much of an appetite for it. But the biggest response that we've got is that people have inside jokes amongst the office. There's a lot of people that these shows are very interactive. So it is something that brings people together and really ties teams together and ties culture together. About 25% of our business is just repeat business. It's just a lot of people just happy that you're able to tie their teams together through comedy. So we work with people from Comedy Central, HBO, where we have just regular stand-up comedy shows. And then we have a lot of partnerships with groups like Lululemon and Kellogg's, where we will write customized shows that have to do with certain social impact. So right now, mental health is obviously a very big topic matter that a lot of people are talking about. And so it's been very interesting that we've been able to utilize some of these comics that were out of work for a while and use some of their writing capabilities and start to write these customized shows specifically having to do with mental health and specifically having to do with food scarcity. And, we work with a lot of comics of all different races, cultures, and there's been a lot of appetite for diversity and inclusion discussions as well. So that's been an interesting thing to be the front man as far as the sales and the business development side of things, but then kind of taking a back seat and allowing a lot of my colleagues, comedians. It's weird to call comedians colleagues because we are a very weird bunch, but being able to employ some of these guys to write some of this customized content for all of these conversations that need to be had and offering a little bit of levity to it. It's been a wild ride the last 2 years, but
I can imagine. Well, let's take it a step further then. So when you're delivering the projects that you do that obviously often can relate to serious issues like mental health, like diversity and inclusion, like employee engagement, which is a serious issue for many HR departments up and down the UK, which is just trying to keep their employees engaged and having fun and loving the place that they work. What's some of the feedback you're getting from the HR leaders you're working with? What's typical feedback? Constructive, negative, positive? What are you hearing post-event?
I'm not just saying it to say it. I keep on waiting for the bad review, and we haven't got it yet. we're talking to some nervous HR people when we start these shows. The amounts of emails that we're getting the day of, just like, hey, just so you know, it starts at this time, and just so you know, we did say the content needed to be clean, and just so you know, and we get a lot of it, and we've been very pleasantly surprised that every review's been very good, you know, and like I said, it's about 25% of it is a business's return business, but the response, the one comment that I've heard so many times, and I think the most recent one was Capital One that was saying it, was we now have inside jokes amongst the office, right? Oh, nice. Because you have, and it was just this thing that kind of clicked that, again, hearing people's positive responses has been kind of the lifeblood of keeping me going, right? Because so many people felt very listless and during the pandemic, and to keep getting those emails and keep getting those responses of, hey, this is the first time we were able to laugh in a very long time. Our company, you know, our sales group are within the office. Now we have all these inside jokes, and a lot of the shows are very interactive. So, you know, maybe the comedian says a joke to one of the audience members, one of the people that works at the company, and they say, they have a banter back and forth. Now all of a sudden that banter back and forth has become an inside joke that everybody keeps on repeating around the office. There's just been a lot of stuff that I did not foresee as I wasn't really thinking of the team building aspect of this. It was just kind of developing out of necessity, since we kind of been put in a corner. It's like, well, I guess we've got to do these virtually now, and I didn't really expect that positive of a response, but we just kept getting different responses like that. The inside joke part was the one that we get the most. And now that we're doing shows in person, there's that part of it is interesting, because now we're starting to see a lot of people when they are seeing their fellow employees for the first time. Yeah. And so now it's this exponential thing that, you know, and I'm sure you've got the same experience, that there's so many people that I'm still seeing for the first time in person, right? I had a fundraising event last night that it was this whole team that I've been working with since August of last year, that we've done a bunch of fundraising events through the year that were mostly virtual. And this is the first time that I've seen so many of them in person. And tying everybody together through the comedy show and having everybody, you know, there's just an energy about it that everybody's so happy to be seeing their coworker for the first time, and now we're sharing laughs. And it is something that really does help with team building, and really does help bring people together, whether they work together or not.
If you could give one piece of advice to the world of HR, to everyone working in HR right now, what would it be?
Loosen up.
Yeah,
right. I know that the HR professional's job is stressful, and you've got to maintain a certain culture and stuff like that. But I don't keep that advice just for HR. We take life too damn seriously, right? And it doesn't just go for HR, it goes for everybody. When you break it down, most of our jobs are just not as important as we're really letting our brains allow us to believe that they are. And so just loosen up, take a breath, breathe a little bit.
Great.
You have, of course, been listening to Nick Day and Stephen Campbell on today's episode of The Listening Lounge. Thank you all for joining me today. And remember, every good conversation starts with good listening. Till next time.